2, 1.
Good afternoon. This is Councilman Victor Jones, Chair of the City of High Point's Public Safety Committee. We have our Wednesday, August 16th meeting called to order. We've got two items on the agenda. We'll say here in the chambers we have Councilman Britt Moore, Mayor Pro Tem Wesley Hudson is filling in for quorum because Councilman Chris Williams and Councilman Johnson weren't able to attend. Our first item on the agenda is item 2023-397. It's a consideration of a resolution supporting the reclassification of High Point 911 telecommunicators. And is that going to be, Curtis Cheeks will be presenting on that item?
That's Kyle. That's Kyle.
Kyle will be presenting. Thank you.
You want us to do it? I'll knock it out for you.
I can draw straws.
Kyle was not one, they said no.
Usually I'm always in the audience, and so I'm first time coming up here. I'm not sure if there's materials that were handed up to you guys. Hopefully there were. There should be a PowerPoint presentation. But the reason this is before you today is there was a movement across the nation to try to reclassify telecommunicators as first responders. Currently, we're classified as administrative support or secretarial work. And
Wait, I'm sorry. You're classified as what?
administrative workers and secretarial work
Okay.
by the federal government. And so there's been some movement over the past few years to get us reclassified as first responders so that we can hopefully take the first step towards getting some of the, either the recognition, but also some of the services that are reserved for first responders, like psychological treatment and whatnot. The history of 911 was the first slide. I'm not sure if that's up there for you guys or not, but before 1968, there wasn't a national 911 system for you to contact for emergency services. And so basically when somebody had a problem, their house was on fire, they needed the police, they would call a non-emergency number, and then an administrative person at the police department or the fire department would answer and then send the appropriate resource. There was no profession for this. And then after 1968, they introduced 911, and then the profession started coming into the industry. So that's how the federal government classified us, and they've never reclassified since that time. So there was a push to take the title, it was called Police, Fire, and Ambulance Dispatchers, and then reclassify them as telecommunicators. Let's see here. The federal government was successful in actually doing the reclassification from the dispatcher term to telecommunicators, since that kind of encompasses everything that the profession entails. Just probably within the past few years, the technology that's coming out is causing more and more anguish on the telecommunicator psychologically. I've got 3 examples for you that happened here locally that just kind of show how things have changed from when people would just get an administrative person to what we do now. I'm not sure if you guys have visited the 911 center or the new 911 center in the back of the police department, but there's a whole lot of technology in there now. There is a small segment of I-85 by virtue of, I believe it's Riverdale Road, that goes over it. That section of I-85 is in the High Points jurisdiction, technically. For the most part, the Highway Patrol handles most of the calls in that area, but it's technically in the city limits. And by virtue of this juvenile who sent a text message to 911, it just so happened to come into the High Points 911 center. And one of our telecommunicators answered that text message. The juvenile stated that their sibling and their mother had been kidnapped, and that they needed help. Apparently they had text for help earlier, but they had hit another 911 center here in North Carolina. And that 911 center, while they took the information, they classified it as a low priority call because they thought it was a prank from a child. And our telecommunicator here in High Point took that information and started coordinating with the Highway Patrol. Since High Point sits in 4 counties, we coordinated with one of the troops, and she stayed on the phone because the Highway Patrol does not have the same technology that High Point does, and they cannot get text 911 calls. And so while our telecommunicator was working with the juvenile, they were relaying that information to the Highway Patrol. When that Highway Patrol person said, well, the car is no longer in the 2 counties that we cover, I'll go ahead and send a lookout to all the other counties for the vehicle. Well, the telecommunicator in High Point didn't feel like that was adequate and asked to be transferred to the next Highway Patrol station. And luckily, the operator there understood the severity of the situation. And between the 2 centers, they were able to use the technology, the Rapid SOS technology that's in the High Point 911 center to actually continue to ping the car. The juvenile's cell phone was leaving breadcrumbs, and we were able to see that in the 911 center. And we were able to relay that to the Highway Patrol, and the Highway Patrol actually had 2 troopers intercept the car, and upon stopping the car, they realized that it was in fact the real deal. So the Highway Patrol, I think, ended up reaching out to the original agency that had got that first one and kind of let them understand, like, hey, should have treated this like the real deal. We could have stopped them a lot sooner. So that was the first one. And while there was no visual graphic representation on what a first responder might see, the telecommunicator handled that from the beginning all the way till the end, till the Highway Patrol was able to get there. So that kind of shows the type of work they do is life-saving work. The second one was actually a compliment that came into the 911 center from an elderly woman here that resides here in High Point. She had called 911 after her husband, who had recently had a stroke, left the home to go take out the trash, and after an hour had not returned. And so the telecommunicator stayed on the line with her, reassuring her that help was on the way. The police department sent out some of their officers, and between the officers that had responded out there and then being able to get the cell phone number of the individual out there, they were able to call him, ping his phone, find where they were, and then send an officer out there, and the officer actually escorted him home. But the woman at the very end of the call just was very grateful to the telecommunicator for staying on the line with her through the entire process. The last one luckily hasn't happened, but there's technology in our 911 center with one of the private schools that allows us to see in the school, and it's designed to be used during an active shooter situation. There's gunshot detection software and hardware in this school that will go off in the event of an active shooter. And we've had to have discussions in the 911 center, should this happen, who is going to be the person that sits in the 911 center and actually watches the gunman go through the school and shoot children, just so that they can tell these individuals here where to go to stop, the bad guy. And that's something that, when I first started my career nearly 21 years ago, wasn't something that I would have imagined us having to do. So those are the 3 stories that are here locally that I wanted to share with you to let you know that the work that we're doing is more in line with a first responder than it is more the administrative secretarial work that the federal government currently classifies us as. By virtue of recognizing us as first responders doesn't instantly open up the doors for any type of benefits or any monetary increases or anything like that. But it is a step in the right direction for us to start getting the mental health and the professional recognition that they deserve. So since I realize you guys don't have the rest of the presentation, it doesn't make sense for me to say, oh, if you go to this page, I can show you that. But on the presentation, there's a picture of the map of the United States that lets you know which states have already started legislation, either at the state or at the state level, lets you know which ones are doing it at the county level and which ones are doing it at the city level, and which ones have just done it for PTSD services only. And then on one of the slides, it shows that while North Carolina does not have a classification in of itself like some of the other states do, I think North Carolina relies on the federal government's classifications for professions here in North Carolina. It does have a map of the counties and the cities that have gone ahead and passed resolutions like the one that's before you today, to let you know who in the state has started to support this movement. There has been, since I originally submitted this at the beginning of the year, there's been movement at the state level. They have read letters of support. I think there was a congressman and a senator at the state level that went ahead and read letters of support recognizing telecommunicators for the work that they do and recognize them as first responders. So I'm here for any questions that you might have. I do have a printed out copy if you'd like to look at any of the material that I have. You have any questions?
Just in the process, you said that the state has started some recognition here in North Carolina. You mentioned other states and counties. Has Guilford County?
They have. Guilford County is one of the counties that recognize support. However, in their resolution, they recognized Guilford Metro's telecommunicators as opposed to all telecommunicators in general. So it was just that one center based out of Greensboro.
So they've made movement toward, but have they adopted and made it official that
Have they?
guys are first responders?
The Guilford Metro ones, yes, they adopted a resolution that identifying them as first responders. I believe of the 4 counties that we sent in, Forsyth is the only one that has not. Davidson and Randolph have both also adopted resolutions. And I think the city of Greensboro and the city of Durham are the 2 cities in the state that have adopted resolutions at the city level.
Madam Attorney, this would just be us taking, the action would be us approving this classification reworded. Correct.
That's right. He has a resolution here supporting the reclassification of it. So it's simply reclassifying it at the state level, correct?
At the national level, because the North Carolina does not have any classifications at the state level.
Okay.
North Carolina will probably have to work with the 911 board in the state to try to make some type of movement at the state level.
So the Office of the Office of Management and Budget Standard, that's like,
That's the federal government. That is correct.
So it's just a resolution reclassifying it to that. It's in the packet here. Does that answer your question?
I believe so, yes. Yeah, in Marine Corps, we have corpsmen, right, the Navy corpsmen, and we're all part of the Navy technically, but that's one of the examples that kind of reminds me of is, that's one group of the Navy that we consider family, that they're Marines just like us, because they're out in the field with us, and, I can see that everything you guys do is right in lockstep with every officer that's out there on the street, so work is appreciated. I think you guys do deserve to be in that same classification.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
A motion approved, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Our next item is item 2023-398, presentation about the Real-Time Crime Center. And that will be the first.
Don't set me up for failure. All right, good afternoon. What I want to do in this presentation is kind of give you all an overview of what we're moving towards and why we feel like it's the next necessary step for us as a department in our push to be part of the city's mission that is safe. Okay, so when we're looking at a real-time crime center and gaining approval and traction for that, it's a technology-driven crime-fighting approach. What we're looking at now is leveraging the resources we have. Right now, we get a call in, or 911 gets a call in, They get the information they're able to obtain from that caller based off of, the mental state the caller's in, how calm they are based off of the situation. Our officers respond, and then the details and the bulk of that information come in once they arrive. Once they arrive, they get that information in, and then they're trying to push that information out via radio. What the Real-Time Crime Center will allow us to do is combine the resources we have access to, city cameras, cameras owned by businesses, our patrol vehicles, which as we integrate our Axon fleet, our cameras will function as license plate readers. So when we receive tag information, now the officer doesn't have to try to manually check each tag as they're driving by, but it combines all of that into one resource so that our reaction and response is based off real-time events instead of after the fact. A lot of what you'll see here will dispel some myths of what a real-time crime center is not, and also kind of give you an overview of how we plan on using this resource. So how does it work? I just quickly hit on, using some of the things we already have, such as our body-worn cameras, which we're in the process of upgrading to a even better product, which again will integrate even more with the Real-Time Crime Center. The use of LPRs, not only the ones that our cars will be equipped with, but our stationary LPRs as well. You all probably are aware, there's a highway that'll take you between us, Winston, Greensboro, Thomasville, Charlotte. Our criminals or our criminal element uses those same roadways. So these LPRs are a big component for us, recovering stolen vehicles, apprehending violent offenders, things like that. The goal is obviously, especially in our critical or our high priority incidents, is to be able to respond again in real time. The individuals working in the Real-Time Crime Center will be able to hear a call being dispatched and immediately start that triage and analyzation process for the officer as they're en route, which again prevents us from driving past something that has already happened or past a person of interest. Their three main focuses will be safety, identification, and apprehension. The identification part, sometimes it gets overlooked. That could be as simple as a critical missing. We have a small child or a person with, a cognitive function issue that has wandered away from their caregiver. Again, that component of the Real-Time Crime Center can be used in that facet as well. Yesterday was another good example of our planned usage, significant weather events. Right now, after a weather event, calls come into communications and it's, hey, send an officer to see if that tree is actually down across the road. Some of those things we'll be able to do without tying up manpower to go and verify and say, yes, the roadway is impacted here. What the Real-Time Crime Center is not, it is not Big Brother. In short, sometimes the concept or the worry is that we will sit and we will watch each person as they move about our city. It's two people that we're dedicating to that staff. We do not have time to sit in there and watch the city as a whole. So that is not what it will be used for. They will not constantly monitor cameras. They're looking for priority calls, priority incidents that they can actively jump on to assist with. And then if we have problem locations where we have camera access or LPR access, they'll be doing spot checks of those locations, again, with the intent and the purpose to prevent things before they happen or to prevent things in real time before that delay of having the call actually come in. This real quick will give you just a very quick
Welcome to Fusus, the industry's first cloud-based, rapidly deployable, real-time crime center. Fusus integrates all major public safety technology investments into a single pane of glass, synthesizing real-time intelligence to enhance first responders' situational awareness and decision-making capabilities. All this information is integrated with the department's 911 dispatch software via a rules-based engine designed to ensure the real-time crime center lives in the hands of agency crime analysts and its field-based users. Setting up Fusus is fast, requires minimal hardware, and has no activation fees. You simply plug a Fusus core into your existing camera or network, and within seconds, the video feed is analyzed, securely encrypted, and transmitted either by an ongoing live stream or on demand based on an alert. And unlike other systems, video and alert sharing is completely controlled by the donor location. For example, schools may choose to limit video sharing to emergency situations, like an active shooter event. And the camera itself can be shared based on the priority of the call and associated sharing policy. In an investigation, police can automatically request footage from all nearby businesses at the click of a button. And camera owners can securely share recorded as well as live video feeds to aid in the investigation. Incident video and data is stored in a CJIS-compliant vault for investigators. And additional video evidence is easily collected via a pre-configured camera registry map of all the public and private cameras in your region, along with a multimedia tip line for the public. The Fusus Real-Time Crime Center in the Cloud is a mission-critical hub that enhances the situational awareness and investigative capabilities of law enforcement agencies, keeping officers and community members safer.
So as you can see, as a quick overview, what that looks like for us is all of those things you just heard mentioned. In some way, shape, form, or fashion, we do them now manually. This allows us to integrate that and bring that in to one centralized source in real time. What we do now manually requires, hey, I need to call this person, get access to this. The average retail establishment, if they experience a crime, the person working can't access the cameras. They've got to get a hold of the one or two people that may be able to. In some cases, they've got to get a hold of the district or regional manager to get access to it. So it could take as long as a week or two before we actually obtain that footage. In some cases, that offender has now done the same thing to 3, 4, 5 other businesses. Giving the public and the business owners the opportunity to decide what level of access do I want to permit versus it being, hey, you either do all or you do nothing at all. Again, all those components go into making people feel comfortable about what part they're playing in, again, helping us have this established and using this platform for the right reasons. So the resources and tools we have now, when I talk about bringing it all in together, we're talking about the platform to bring everything in together, not, hey, we need this and these 15 other things. So we already have access to numerous state, local, and national law enforcement databases where we can look up, obtain information on individuals, vehicles, boats, whatever you name it. Local camera feeds, those already exist in the city. License plate readers, we already have some static. We've already jumped through the process of having our cars be integrated to increase that function. A dedicated space for the Real-Time Crime Center. We've got a nice building over on Westchester. We have the space. If we were still on Leonard, we'd be asking for a couple of tents as well, but we've got the space on Westchester to house the Real-Time Crime Center. Then Axon integration, that's the new vendor we're going with for our body cameras and some of the other technology that we're using. This platform seamlessly integrates with what we already have. We've got the staff for it. We've got a crime analyst that we've repurposed to help get this up off the ground. And then we have a supervisor who we've dedicated who has experience as a law enforcement officer. She's familiar with our department, how we've done business for numerous years, well-versed at this point in media interviews after today. So we've got that staff ready to go. They're already working towards developing SOPs and processes and things like that. And then both are already members of the National Real-Time Crime Center Association, again, so we can make sure as we start rolling, best practices are put in place. It allows for future growth, things that we don't even have now that we have the potential to add. Shot spotter, it's a gun detection system. It's used at some of the cities and jurisdictions around us. That's something that already integrates into this system. Mobile cameras. If you think about some of the events that we currently have on a regular basis in this city, from Uncle Sam Jam to the Furniture Market, Coltrane Festival, these mobile cameras are basically on trailers. You can move them around and they help monitor and mitigate large events. And then drone integration. That's something that's become even more prevalent here in law enforcement. We used, with the aid of other agencies, we used several drones during a critical missing search a few months ago. But that, again, is something that we had to manually monitor. That would integrate with the Real-Time Crime Center as well. Why this matters, especially to us, if you don't know, we're hiring. So if you know anyone that's interested, point them to our website. We've averaged since June of 2022, 75% of our staffing levels. So we're looking for ways to maximize our efficiency and effectiveness, and we feel like this is one of the things that helps us do that. Like we just discussed, other tools can be added. It will give us the ability to network with our neighboring jurisdictions that already use this product and this platform. Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, Kernersville, Rocky Mount, Fayetteville, Charlotte, Meck. There's a lot of agencies we deal with on a regular basis because we're exchanging criminals, it seems like sometimes, but they already use this platform. And once we have an agreement with them, you know, if we feel like someone is fleeing to their city, we have the ability, without even, you know, jumping through certain hoops with them, of accessing their real-time crime center as well. Our downtown revitalization. You know, again, we've always said, and the chiefs always drove home to us, our mission in this whole thing is safe. If we don't have a safe city, a lot of these other things are much, much harder. The community has an option. They decide what level of camera access, if they have a business or a residence that they want to provide. And then it's real-time information. The reactive component is, you know, it's fine. We've done business that way, you know, for years, but it's a lot better when we can prevent things from escalating to the worst-case scenario. Or, you know, instead of spending 2 hours to recover a critical missing, do that in the first 10 minutes because we're able to track where they were, or mitigate some of the less than desirable driving that occurs in the city when we have traffic crashes at major thoroughfares. Any questions? I'll take that as we did a great job. So.
Why are you coming, what's the timing of this for our department, as far as you mentioned, you not rattled off 5 or 6 towns around that are already doing this. And it seems to me like a few years back, we had a local guy involved trying to get a city to consider something similar to this type of stuff. But why are we in line where we are? Why did the other cities take this up before we did?
So one of the things, our approach to technology is sometimes being first is not always the best thing. You know, and so when we look at something as an agency, we're looking at how does it fit into what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish as an agency. And so that's a big part of it. You know, one of our partner agencies now, they're in a different platform, and now they're trying to switch over to this platform because what FUSIS has managed to do is say, here's the things that need to be accomplished through a real-time crime center. Let's put together the best package and platform that integrates with these other key components. And so now, from a timing aspect, that's right for us for those very reasons, is that a lot of what we already have in place and a lot of what we're looking at for future growth and development from a crime fighting perspective and from a critical incident management perspective, this offers us that ability to do so.
And you will be able to report back to future councils real results and actual figures, I guess would be the word,
Yes,
as to how this is paying off and
Absolutely. One of the things that, again, they're already working on is not only, how we report and record things, but how we measure our success, how we get that information, again, in real time to the officers, things of that nature. So, yes.
Yeah, I think we talked about this about a year ago, about some of the neighboring cities and what they were implementing. And, being first to market on anything is risky and expensive. And I think we have the advantage of having some neighboring cities that have utilized this process and technology that we can learn from and see how we can adapt the same technology to keep us safer here in High Point. So I'm glad we were able to sit back for a little bit and watch, but I think it's time that we get on the same level as they are.
Absolutely.
We're already trending down on our crime numbers, and because of you guys doing your jobs, and I hope this is going to further that and keep it even safer. 'Cause I think we're the safest city 50 miles of here, so.
Absolutely.
I got one more thing.
Okay.
Some of the cities that have gone before us, you had the one bullet point about it becoming a big brother situation. Are they seeing that in these other places?
No, and I'll tell you, Kyoto's already been to Charlotte, Atlanta, Winston, and one of the things that the purpose for those visits was to look at integration, implementation, practical use, any downsides, any, problems, things of that. And the one overall thing and theme is those things that I told you ours would focus on, you don't have time to do or focus on anything else, especially those other jurisdictions that are bigger than us. It's just unreasonable to try to sit there and watch cameras for the sake of
Right.
watching cameras. So if we wanted to, we couldn't accomplish that task. And a lot of what we do, again, it will be predicated off of our problem areas in the city, as well as the priority calls that are coming in through dispatch.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we will not be absent of that. Regardless, that's not what it's for. There will be some resistance because of that.
Sure.
We just need to be prepared to answer that question as a city when we do get this up and running, which
Well-
we're ready to go.
Right.
We should be in front of council, finance committee, and council in the meeting after Labor Day. We're drafting the agenda item now. I still have to come in front of you to ask. So all that's being worked now.
But it's still, as long as the people know that they have to give consent.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like my limo company is just going to be watched tomorrow unless I give you permission to access that camera should there be an event.
It's already being watched.
Yeah, well, they've seen my footage a couple of times.
And we're working on material to provide to the general public that explains that as well.
Right. We don't need any action on this today, correct? This is just a presentation.
Correct.
All right, cool. All right, well, that is it for our agenda today. I appreciate everyone's time and presentations and keeping the city safe. And we are adjourned.